Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So my name's Ben Potter. I'm an application engineer at Concepts in Production, and today we're going to be going into the second pillar of SOLIDWORKS What's New 2019. The last two webinars we did were on attention to detail, and the one today will be on performance as well as assembly enhancements and improvements. So go ahead and look into performance. So in 2019, SOLIDWORKS development went in and sort of redid or revamped a lot of the underlying software code to SOLIDWORKS. Example, OpenGL was previously on, I believe, 2.0, and it is now on 4.5. So it has been upgraded to the newest and allows for better application response and performance, harnessing the newer technologies in graphics cards. And then there's been a bunch of other enhancements to the code as well, optimizations and things of that nature. So we have the capability to have high performance view manipulation. Large assembly mode is no longer required. If you have a certified graphics card, you can access the most out of the new performance. We have full visual appeal, so the real view graphics don't need to be turned off when you have these large assemblies. And this scales with newer and higher end graphics cards. That allows particular users, you may get the best card you can, and the new software will be able to utilize that card to its fullest potential. Now, the best way to show performance is with a video. Here we have 2018 with large assembly mode enabled. So we see our general performance. It allows us to move around. We'll get sometimes that the polygon change for the more complex parts. And if we turn it off, we get the typical jittery, clunky behavior that we are used to with large assemblies outside of large assembly mode. And we don't get all the nice visual appeal. So here we have 2019 with a certified card and the full performance boosts turned on, and we're able to move it without being in large without being in large assembly mode, nice and smooth. And now we have the side-by-side, which we can see how 2019 can handle the complexity of this assembly much better than 2018 can. And this also brings better stability with the optimization within the code, as well as just in general enhancement improvements to SOLIDWORKS 2019. So the performance shows us, we have that high performance view manipulation, allowing us to take really complex assemblies and not have to downgrade them essentially to preserve the performance. We don't need large assembly mode as often, or even if we have maybe a smaller assembly, we don't need to necessarily go into large assembly mode to be able to use it. We can keep our real view on more often. And again, this scales with the higher end graphics hardware. So the better your card is, the more performance returns you should see. And this all culminates to a smoother, more responsive, dynamic performance. So that's a nice thing about 2019, is the performance can definitely be seen and felt. So I'm going to move into assemblies. The first ones we're going to look at are the lock rotation of toolbox components, the ability to group mates by status, and then enhancements to the explode view. So we'll get into SOLIDWORKS and take a look at these. First, we'll take a look at the mates grouping as well as the locking of the rotation. So this part has errors, and all the errors are contained within the mates. So currently we just have our massive list of mates. But we can, on the top, right-click, group mates, and we can now do these by status. So we'll see that we have all of our solved mates. These are the ones that don't have any issues. And you can collapse these like that. But we'll go ahead and scroll down, and now we have our more problematic mates. We can see that we have two that have errors, 4 are overdefined, 1 is suppressed and just missing, and then 3 are inactive or fixed, maybe a configuration. So for the errored ones, we'll go ahead and edit and see what the problem is. Missing a plane or a face, we can go ahead and check that. And then when we say OK, it all works. Says, well, hey, we got a few other mates that are missing the same face, the same reference. Do you want us to just go ahead and replace those for you? We'll say yes. And when we exit out, we see that we no longer have any error mates because those 2 were solved for us. 4 overdefined ones, I'll just go ahead and suppress this one. That moves the other 3 up, and now we get a new category for just general suppressed. For the missing mate, we can just go ahead and delete that one out, and then we won't mess with the fixed and inactive ones. So that's the power of being able to group our mates by status, so we can easily find the ones that are giving us problems or know what status they're under. And then if we take a look at our toolbox hardware, we see that we have our under definition symbol, the little minus sign. And that's generally, if you've used toolbox a lot, you know that they do not automatically lock the concentrically. There's always rotation. Well, now we can right click on the mates again, and we can actually lock all concentric rotation for toolbox components. So if we do that and then we take a look, you'll see that all the concentric mates for the toolbox have now been locked. And then if we go back to our hardware, our under definition minus signs have all been cleared. And we can set this as default in the system options under Hole Wizard /toolbox. So take just a second to load that in. And we have the new lock toolbox mates, so we can automatically have them come in locked concentrically if we wish to have it that way. So now we'll take a look at our assembly delighters with the explode view enhancements. Exploded views have always been useful in showing off how an assembly goes together, making these nice little animations to send to a customer, or just kind of better understand how an assembly is being assembled. New in 2019 is a rollback bar for assemblies. So we can come here and collapse all this, or we can start all the way to the top, and just work our way towards the bottom. And as we do this, we notice right here that the end cap has moved before the screws did. So we can come down here to the screw and just simply drag it into place. So then we'll see the screws move and then the end cap. The rollback allows us to, the same exact thing that we use it for in the feature tree. And we can now drag and drop our steps so that we can reorder these without having to always go into and edit the definition, which previously was kind of tedious. So as we make our way down, we see that our inner washer stack here has not exploded out. So let's go ahead and hop in and edit this. And you'll notice that when I do that, the rollback bar actually stays exactly where it was. So then I come down, got my auto spacing on, everything looks good. We'll go ahead and grab the washers and get them to explode out for us. There, that looks good. So that adds it right in there for us. And we can, can roll it down just like we normally would. We also have the capability of suppressing different sections. So if we want something to be collapsed, because we're taking a look at it, we can do that. You can shift select them, you can control select like that, and we can suppress all of these and take a look at different areas and components. And when we say OK, we see that all of our suppressed mates or explode steps are also suppressed even outside of the edit. And then we can unsuppress them and go ahead and we'll animate our collapse. And now in 2019, these animations can be saved in some new formats, including Flash, MKV, and MP4. Gives you more options to save these little videos out and send them to customers, as well as different file formats for potentially storage space on the hard drive or to emails. Some other enhancements. Bounding boxes were introduced in 2018 for the part level, and they've now been introduced to the assembly level. They're color coded. So the gray box is for the full master assembly. Blue denotes a subassembly within the master, and then orange denotes the part in the master level. Component patterns within assemblies have seen improvements. Circular patterns now offer 2 directions, as well as linear patterns now have up to reference. So these are common in the part level patterns, but we can now do these in assembly component patterns. And these enhancements allow us, to better organize and control our assemblies with the lock and rotation, so we don't have to worry about that when we bring in toolbox components. The mates just allow us to organize and better understand where issues may be occurring if we're having problems with our mates. And then the explode enhancements to really just make the explode view process a lot more easy and streamlined. So productivity tools for robust assembly interaction. Now we'll look at the silhouette D feature. This allows us to simplify our assemblies, whether for performance gain or if we have the need to maybe send these out to a customer or to a potential customer, or we want to put something that we're proud of that we've created out on the web, but we don't want to give all the proprietary information of how we modeled it or the full blown visual style that we have that is unique to us and us alone. So we can create these simplified assemblies with visually similar looks. And then we can even have the associativity that we're used to for the defeatured assembly to be linked to the normal one. So if changes occur, then we can propagate that through. And we'll take a look at this. Open up basically the same part, but it has a few additions. And so we got our D feature. If you've ever used it, we now have the silhouette. So this is simplified based on the outlines of components. And it's pretty straightforward. We'll just kind of walk through it. So the first group I'm going to make is parts that I don't want simplified. So kind of the base structure. So we'll select those, and then in our simplification method right here, we'll simply set that to none. We want to keep these exactly as they are. And when I create the first group, we'll see a preview window pop up, and it is visually linked to our main. So as I rotate it, the preview window will rotate as well. Same with zooming in and out. So now we're going to select pretty much all of our kind of cylindrical shapes that we want. I'm going to right click and use the new select identical components. So that will grab all of these. I'll select here and do the same. Then we'll go to the cable, the end plate, and then I'll switch down to selecting a body, and we'll select the motor. Then we'll change this to a simplification method to cylinder. With everything selected, we'll add our group, and we'll see it processing the bodies. And then once it's finished, we'll get our simplified model will update. So we can see we got our motor, end caps, our little wheels, just like that. So now we'll do a few more complex shapes. I'll use my select identical again to grab those. We'll switch down to bodies, grab our tabs, and then we'll use the simplification method polygon outline. So it'll create a shape based on the very rudimentary outline of our part or bodies. Again, we'll add that group, and it'll quickly generate our parts, just like that. And then next we're going to do the motor up here. Now the motor's pretty complex part, so we'll actually do a tight fit outline. So this will kind of, as you kind of imagine, like laying sort of a plastic sheet over it and then just sort of vacuum sealing, but only to a very rough idea of the shape. And we'll do that by selecting it. And then down here we have the orientation we want. So I'm going to select a top plane, but then I'm going to change it to this face. So this is kind of what I'm saying is the top plane. And then to really get the shape similar, we're going to use multiple directions right at the bottom. So this will kind of look at it from all directions and give us a closer representation of the model than just kind of from this direction. So we'll go ahead and add that group. And we see that we now have, it looks pretty similar without obviously looking like it. So once we're happy with our defeatured assembly, we can move over to our results. So we can just store these settings onto the part and go from there. We can publish them to 3D Content Central. SOLIDWORKS is kind of hub for shared parts and models. Like I said, this is useful if we're real proud of our little winch here. We can defeature it and then put it out online for others to use as placeholders. Or we can save it as a new document and then link it to the original. And again, this would allow us to get even more performance out of a really large assembly by defeaturing some of the sub-assemblies. So we'll go ahead and do that. And I'll just save here, save over the one that I already made. And once it's done saving, our preview window will actually become the part. And this is new in 2019, that little window that popped up when I clicked too early. SOLIDWORKS now actually displays what it's trying to do instead of just saying that it's doing something. So if you ever get that, what we call when it hangs, the little wheel spinning, and you click, in 2019 it'll actually tell you like, hey, I'm trying to save a file, or I'm trying to open a new file, I'm trying to rebuild. So you have a better understanding of what SOLIDWORKS is trying to do instead of just it's not responding. So that's a nice little feature. But now we have our defeatured part. Then we can see that the only thing in the feature tree is the 4 groups we made and then the defeatured parts. And there's no information here, no proprietary information, no knowledge of how we made these or anything. So this would be nice to send to a customer or put it in again to an assembly, just a way to protect ourselves or get better performance out of our large assemblies. So it allows us to massively defeature assemblies. We saw, we can see here on the slide the very kind of complex look that we have, and then we can really rapidly create a simplified silhouette defeatured assembly. We can use the new select identical components to quickly grab the same component instead of having to click around. Especially in large assemblies, this saves a lot of time and allows us to not have to pan and zoom around and hope we hold control all the time. And then we have the ability to link the defeatured assembly to the original, and that allows us to control and have that associativity we're used to through all of SOLIDWORKS. So it allows us to simplify our assemblies and protect intellectual property. So those are the enhancements for performance and assemblies. It allows us to tackle our biggest design challenges with the better performance, as well as all of the assembly enhancements for better explode experiences, the defeatured tool, the new silhouette tool, as well as better organization with bounding boxes and mate status grouping. Thanks for coming, and the next webinar, which I believe will be in 2-3 weeks, will be on manufacturing. That's kind of the secondary software that SOLIDWORKS has, like Visualize, CAM, different things of that nature. And that will be in a few weeks.